So what are Russia and, well, today Romania up to again, ladies and gentlemen? The Russians are, of course, attacking Ukraine because, in case you haven't noticed, there's a war going on, and above all, a major offensive is underway, which is more or less humiliating for the Russians, since during this major offensive, they haven't managed to make any significant advances. But I don't want to talk about that because you've all more or less noticed what happened. And here we have direct footage with audio of what happened. It's from Romania, from the border region, from the town of Galicia. So it's a mild night, you can hear the engine, and then there's a massive bang. So yeah, this happened. This is quite an experience, and here you can see the consequences. Here are the consequences. A fire broke out in the apartment building, injuring 2 people. This was the whole incident, and it didn't occur during any major attack on Ukrainian territory or airspace. It was one of, as you can see, those more ordinary days over Ukraine. About 200 drones. The intention was to bomb mainly the Odessa region, the Mykolaiv region, and the Zaporizhzhia region. Overall, the aim was to target the southern coast of Ukraine. But very, very often, Russia also tries to hit, for example, the port of Izmail or the Danube ports to cause damage. And they're targeting this area here, which is located just below Moldova, which, by the way, is Ukrainian territory, and a lot of people forget about it. But as you can see, it's still Ukrainian territory. It seems that the following happened. Simply put, the Ukrainian air defense either worked, but it worked by disrupting the drone's path, and this drone simply flew off its course, strayed from its route, got lost, and hit the city of Galati or Galati. By the way, this is not the first time something like this has happened in Romania. In the past and during previous attacks, it has happened that debris landed on Romanian territory, that some public property was damaged, and so on. Power poles and these kinds of things were damaged. But this is actually the first time that an entire drone has flown into Romanian territory. It wasn't just debris, but a whole drone with its payload, and it damaged a civilian home and even injured 2 people. This is the worst incident that has happened in Romania during this war as a result of Russian actions, and of course it has provoked quite strong reactions. Because of course you can't just let this go without a response. And here we have a response that basically says we condemn Russian recklessness and the strike on a residential building in Romania and the violation of Romanian airspace. Overall, of course, the European Union condemned this, NATO condemned it, all the NATO countries condemned it. So actually, our reaction, our diplomatic response to this incident was very good. I was worried that there might be some kind of split here, that, for example, something might happen in Bulgaria, because after all, they have that new president now, and even though we know he's not exactly pro-Russian, at the same time, we have some doubts about where he really stands. Yeah. However, it seems that the whole European Union and all of NATO stood up as one and said, no way, you messed this up, we stand with Romania, and that's that. Which is great. That's great because we succeeded diplomatically. This was probably an accident, of course, but at the same time, this accident was a big test. It was a big test for the North Atlantic Alliance, whether we care about Romania too, whether we don't just have some warm relations with Poland because Poland has a good army, or whether we have some sentiment for the Baltics because the Baltics are quite well known, whether we can stand up just as clearly for Romania as we did for Poland and the Baltics. If it was intentional, it looked like an accident. If it was an accident, whatever, it can happen, and it has happened before. In any case, it was a test. It was a test of our unity, and the North Atlantic Alliance as well as the European Union passed. But the real warning sign is how the whole thing unfolded. Because we already have some reports, we can even look at some photos here. We have some reports about how it all happened, and it happened like this. The drone flew over, F-16 fighter jets took off, the drone crashed, and the fighter jets weren't able to do anything at all. In other words, once again, Even though we came together as NATO and showed diplomatic strength, once again we have to read an article about how drones flew over and damaged something on the territory of the North Atlantic Alliance, on the territory of our allies. We're not reading an article about how the air defenses engaged and simply shot that Russian drone, Russian fighter jet, or anything else out of the sky. And that's something that needs to start happening. That's the thing. I don't want to read about how some drone and some debris landed on Alliance territory, how an accident happened, how something veered off course, how we're going to tolerate it from Russia, how we passed the test, and how we managed it because we joined forces diplomatically. No, I want to read about how our air defense shoots down Russian aircraft that violate Estonian territory or Estonian airspace. I want to read about how we captured a Russian pilot. I want to read about how we shot down Russian drones that didn't harm anyone. And regardless of whether it was an accident or intentional, we simply carried out a counterattack. That's what I want to read about how we showed some strength, how we put up some kind of defense, how we showed some ability to respond, and not just the ability to issue statements to each other. Yeah. So even though we succeeded as an alliance, once again, our defense turned out to be full of holes. Of course, this is something the alliance is obviously aware of, so the Eastern Sentry or the Eastern Watch will be strengthened, the presence in Romania will be increased, and Romania is urging for the delivery of anti-drone measures and anti-drone weapons. Again, topics like the European drone wall, drone shield, and things like that are being brought up here. But that's, again, once more, we've already heard this in the past, that it was discussed, and again, it didn't work out. Again, it's not, it's definitely not finished yet, but how much longer will it take before we are able to defend ourselves, before we stop just watching to see what will come, before we stop just dealing with the consequences, but actually become able to prevent these situations? How long are we going to let drones be thrown at our houses, at our fields? How long are we just going to put up with it without any response, not even showing our claws, but just bristling our hedgehog's spines, man? We don't even need to have claws or scratch anyone. It's enough for us to curl up into a ball and have spines that are high enough, wide enough, long enough, and sharp enough to take down all Russian intruders from the sky. But we don't have that either. So, that's bad. This is bad. It needs to get better. I hope this will be enough of a wake-up call even for those Southerners, but for all of NATO, that this is simply a problem. Because debris is falling into Romania and drones are exploding close to the Romanian border and they just let it fly through, damn it. That's so frustrating. It's really infuriating. So even though at the beginning I praised it for turning out well, in the end I'm really dissatisfied. Now let's take a look at domestic politics regarding the North Atlantic Alliance. So, regarding domestic politics and the North Atlantic Alliance, Andrei Babiš fortunately maintained decorum and also condemned the attack. And now, regarding Romanian domestic politics, at this moment, of course, this attack is not yet reflected in the polls. But the Romanian president has already used it. The Romanian president, Nikos Nicosordan, has already used it, who is a pro-European, pro-Western person, and is more or less on the side of Ukraine. And he talked about the need to get rid of the Russian threat and generally called for help for Romania and called for strengthening Romania and so on. So, of course, he's following a pretty good political line, doing what he can. On the other hand, we have here, well, a slowly, gradually weakening, but still significantly dominant nationalist party, the Alliance for Unity of Romanians, also known as the Alliance for Romanian Unity, or for a United Romania. And they, in turn, criticized that the response was bad, that it was slow. Actually, the Romanian nationalists here are criticizing the same thing as I am. The same thing as I am saying, and I think they'll get a hearing in Romania. They will get a hearing in Romania, but unfortunately they are not criticizing it in the sense that we are too weak, that we need to be stronger and kick Russia's ass. They criticize it by saying we are too weak, we need to be stronger, unite Romania and throw Ukraine overboard and reach an agreement with Russia. If Romania is strong, then Ukraine can go to hell for all they care. Yeah, so this is the thing they'll use to cook up their own political agenda, saying it's all caused by the war, which must end, and by Romania's weakness, which must end, and that Romania needs to be stronger, and so on and so on and so on. Well, in any case, at this moment, we can expect that technically Article 4 could be triggered, meaning consultations, some negotiations about strengthening NATO's presence in Romania. Hopefully, this will push to get anti-drone technology deployed quickly. Let's hope so. And of course, we can look forward to the internet being flooded with information that it was a Ukrainian drone. Whatever, it doesn't matter, even if it was a Ukrainian drone, which it wasn't because it was a Guarantee. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all caused by the war in Ukraine, which was started by the Russians. Similarly, if the argument is that the Russians didn't want to do it, that the Ukrainians diverted it there or shot it down or something, it doesn't matter at all. The drone shouldn't have been over Ukraine in the first place, for God's sake. Yeah, so that's that. Ladies and gentlemen, see you next time. Join the streams where this chatting and talking about Romania also took place. Support the content with a like, a share, and write in the comments what you think about it. Hit the notification bell, even though I've heard that my videos don't have the notification option, even though I have it on all my other videos. So I don't know. See you next time. Let's keep going and see you later.